Howdy guys, and happy school holidays. And school holidays mean only one thing for me, and that's time for another library book haul. As I've said before, I can find it very difficult to get to the library during term time. I tend to only visit the library during the holidays. So what I do is head into the library and I tend to pick up quite a few books at the same time. I went with a plan in mind. In fact, I ultra nerded out and wrote a list, went through on the library computer and wrote a list of all the books that were on my to-reads list that they do have in the library, so that I wouldn't spend hours fruitlessly searching. I must talk to the people in the library because I do not know how they can have the book listed as available, but I can't find it. I was looking for Soundless by Rochelle Mead, checked the young adult section, checked the sci-fi section, checked the adult fiction section. It's nowhere to be seen. And it's not a big library, so God knows where all the books are. Anyway, my first port of call was the young adult section. When I got there, I knew that quite a few of the books I had that I wanted to read were young adult books, so that was the most sensible place to start. The book that immediately caught my eye was one that I'd seen a lot of YouTubers talking about, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. As I said, I have seen a lot of booktubers talking about this book. It seems to be really popular. Marissa Meyer certainly comes up time and time again. And as soon as I saw the book on the shelf, I thought, I've got to read it because everybody's loving it. So decided to give this one a go. Wow. Cyborgs. I'm a huge sci-fi fan, so that pretty much won me over. I can't wait to read this. After I'd grabbed Cinder, I decided to keep looking in the young adult section. There were quite a few books there that appealed to me, but there was one that I was keen to read because it finishes a series that I've been reading, was Allegiant. It's called Allegiant, isn't it? By Veronica Roth. I have read Divergent and Insurgent and enjoyed both. I was a massive fan of Divergent. Insurgent was okay, but I think if you've read two books in a series, you just have to finish it. So if the second book had been rubbish, I wouldn't have bothered. But I'm really looking forward to reading this. It looks enormous, but I think when I looked at the font size inside, it's not quite as intimidating, so I should be racing through these books, to be quite honest. After chilling out in the young adult section, I thought I'd take a wander around adult fiction. There were a few books that I had on my to-reads list that they had, but most of them were huge. I think Terror by Dan Simmons was there, and some others that I can't remember what they were, and I decided that actually I've got a couple of big books there and I wanted to go for something smaller. I am denied for ages and gave up and went over to graphic novels, which is where I found, what is it called? Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, the graphic novel. Now I have heard of this, but I can't remember where I've heard of it. The graphic novel section in my library is very small. It's just one of those spinny stands, and it's absolutely rammed with superhero comic books and graphic novels, and I wanted something just a bit different. So I was just spinning it around looking for something that wasn't superheroes and found this. Then when I sort of recollected that it was something that had appealed to me previously, I was even more interested. Had a sort of quick scan inside and thought, yeah, it's kind of what I had in my head as the kind of graphic novel I was expecting and was intrigued by. I have no idea what it's about. Does it say anywhere? Desperate to uncover the truth about his grandfather's death, 16-year-old Jacob sets out on a life-altering quest. Arriving on a remote island off the coast of Wales, he hopes to revisit the past his grandfather left far behind at Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. And then it talks about meeting the inhabitants and things, and I think it sounds cool. I think it sounds right up my street, so looking forward to that. So after picking up two books that were on my to-reads list and a graphic novel, I decided to check out the classics section. There were a few books that I wanted to read. I can't remember any of them. Of Mice and Men, Catcher in the Rye, a couple of things like that. They didn't have any of them, even though they claimed they're available. So I ended up just looking at, I just wanted a quick read of a classic. So I just scoured the shelves, scanned them quickly, and found this book, which I'd never heard of before, which is called The Outsider by Albert Camus. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong. I chose it based on the fact that it was a classic and quite small, which I'm aware makes me seem quite shallow, but I wanted to read a classic, but I'd never heard of it. But then when I read the back, this book sounds amazing. Oh God, I can't read the name. Marceau is different. He will not lie, he will not pretend, he is true to himself. So when his mother dies and he is unmoved, he refuses to do the proper thing and grieve. Returning to somewhere, Algiers, after the funeral, he carries on life as usual until he becomes involved in a violent murder. In court, it is clear that Mousseau's guilt or innocence will not be determined by what he did or did not do. He is on trial for being different, an outsider. I think this kind of concept appeals to everybody. Everybody feels like an outsider in life. They feel different to everybody else. I kind of like the notion that he doesn't lie, he doesn't pretend, so he seems to be quite an honest character. And just the notion that somebody's on trial for being different and how that might pan out. I'm quite excited to read this, and we'll probably read it. Oh, how can I choose which one to read first? But I think I'm very intrigued by this story, more so than the other books, so I think this is going to be a great read. Can't wait. I know it's only 4 books, and lots of you will be thinking, 4 books, that's not really a haul. But to me, 4 books is my aim. I have a 4-year-old son who has to entertain himself while I look for books, so I don't have a huge amount of time. And equally, I don't want to come away with hundreds of books. I would rather come away with a few that I really want to read than piles of books that I won't read. If you have read any of them, then let me know what you think, but please no spoilers. Particularly if you've read The Outsider, because I've not seen that on BookTube read by anyone, so I'd be really interested to know what you thought of it, or indeed the graphic novel. Not heard much about that either. So do let me know in the comments, and yeah, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.